Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to the show. My name's Dan Hafner. I am joined by another guest today. We're going to talk a little bit more. We've been talking a lot about AI. We've been talking a lot about tech, and that's the hot topic these days of things. Um, but I'm gonna bring in Juliette here in a second, and she has built some things. She's had a very fascinating career, which is why I invited her on the show. But she's also built some really cool stuff inside of the ed tech space or educational technology space, leveraging AI. Has worked with big companies like Apple, L'Oreal, HP, like some really big, cool things that she's done in her life. So I'm very interested to get her perspective and kind of grill her on some of these questions and things that she's been through. So I'll bring her on in 1 second. But as always, please be sure to subscribe to the show, give a rating, give a review. That always is super helpful. If you enjoy the show, even if you don't like the show, leave a 1-star rating. I don't really care. That doesn't help, but it's the truth. And we always are open to feedback on how the show is going and if it's actually serving you and giving you good content. So that is my little spiel for that. And without any further ado, welcome Juliette Denny to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on, Dan. It's lovely to be here. I'm very well. Yes, I'm in and sunny Andorra, actually, is where I'm living. So right up in the mountains. And it is a beautiful hot day. Not as hot as the rest of Spain, but yeah, life is good. Life is good.
Very good. Very good. That's awesome. Well, we're definitely a global show. We've had, international guests before and stuff. I'm based here in the US. So welcome. You're another international guest. It's really cool to have you on. Um, so, so you've been in the tech space for quite a long time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it belies my looks, but yes, I mean, I've had Growth Engineering. So Growth Engineering is a SaaS edtech company. We are a learning management platform, learning experience platform for large corporates. So, as you said, HP, L'Oreal, these types of companies. And then more latterly, I gave up the CEO position at Growth Engineering and have started an AI first company called Iridescent Technology. And we are creating an AI learning companion called Zavmo. And Zavmo basically is your lifelong learning partner that can deliver personalized learning experiences, along with your kind of neurodivergent needs, aligned with your interests, hobbies, and life design. And so I'm just hugely excited about the potential for AI and how it can revolutionize, the learning experience. Because, by background, I'm dyslexic. My kids are dyslexic, and I think there are a lot of people out there that, haven't really been able to necessarily tap into qualifications frameworks and all the things that you can do with a higher level of education. So that's really the goal behind Zavmo AI.
Wow, that's very interesting. So you say it's a lifelong learning partner. I mean, to me, that sounds like it could start when you're knee high to a grasshopper, and it can continue till you're old people like us. Like, is that kind of the case of it?
That's absolutely the case. So we
Huh.
have the first rollout is in the United Kingdom, in the UK. So we have 28,000 different qualifications. So obviously that breaks down into millions of credits. So once you start engaging with Zavmo and you explain, where you are in your life, let's say, you're doing your maths high school stuff, or you're somebody who started their career or wherever. So you have a conversation with Zavmo, and this is called the discovery phase. And you're going to be chatting with Zavmo about, where you are in your life, what you want to achieve, what you're struggling with, what your interests and hobbies are, because one of the things that Zavmo does later down the line is it takes your interest and hobbies, and then when it's delivering the learning, let's say it's maths and you're really interested in basketball, it will interweave basketball stories to show how maths might work. So first of all, it's discovery, then it's discussion. So we want Zavmo is going to have a discussion with you about habit forming, and are you willing to make the commitment to learn? When do you want to learn? Because it's conversational based, it's high on attention, so you don't need to do a long time with Zavmo. So you don't need to watch an hour video on volcanoes. You can have a 10-minute conversation because you're having a one-on-one conversation. So then you schedule when you want to speak to Zavmo. Then we go into delivery, and delivery is all about really, really personal conversations to ensure that the attention is being kept and it's delivered in line with, let's say, if it was me, I'm dyslexic, so I like double spacing. I like content to be phonetically spelled if it's larger words. If I've got ADHD, then I would have, multiple spacing. If, like I said, you need a lot of confidence building if you're dyslexic. So that's the kind of delivery part. And then you move on to demonstration. So delivery is all about learning objectives, and demonstration is all about learning outcomes. Because obviously, if you're doing maths GCSE, or you're doing, whatever it might be, high school English or high school geography or whatever, there are specific things that you must know in order to pass your exams. So that's the demonstration element of it, where we're trying to get the knowledge to be put in real world scenarios, real world context, so you can really think about the application and how useful that knowledge is to you. And so in this way, we're hoping to kind of grow your overall curiosity for learning and for developing, and so that's basically the idea, that he's meant to be, he or she, whatever it is, it's Zavmo. So Zavmo is actually my two sons' name. So Zavi is my youngest, and then Cosmo is my oldest. So we squished them together and we ended up with Zavmo. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Okay. Well, there's a lot there. So, I'm interested, obviously you built an AI type of tool in this space because you saw some kind of problem. It seems like you've brought up the dyslexia thing, maybe learning impairments, different things like that. I'm just curious, and this is more of a broad question, but how do you see the advent of all this AI stuff affecting the educational space? And I mean, like, I think about the way I use ChatGPT today. I think about if I had this thing in high school, I would have got straight A's. You know what I mean? Like, I would have cheated my ass off with this thing. So I'm wondering, like, how do you think all this stuff affects what are the younger generations are doing, and even in the educational space? I know it's probably even like different from younger kids up to the college level, PhD level. Like, what do you think the externalities of all this stuff that's going to be, coming down the line?
Okay, so the first thing that I would say is that when you build an application using AI, okay, you don't use ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is just like a glorified, search engine, okay, for want of better. You go in, you know what you're going to ask, and it basically gives you the information back, okay? Right. We are using, a data lake of information, okay? So this data lake of information has every single qualification in the UK, and that's basically what we're using as the data, okay? And then there is the natural language processing layer, where we are prompt engineering learning pedagogy, best in class learning pedagogy, in order to inspire curiosity and maintain attention. So when you think about Zavmo, don't think of it as a search engine. Like, right. Zavmo is not there to basically give you information in terms of it's there to have a conversation in and around learning objectives and learning outcomes. So just in the same way as you wouldn't go into a geography class and you can ask your teacher something and the teacher will give you the information, but that is the relationship that you have. So Zavmo is trying to get you from here to there in terms of in line with your life design. So that's the purpose of, that's how we're using AI technologies. Why for me did I just felt compelled to move out of SaaS and into AI development, was because I believe that everybody has the capacity to be so much more than they currently are. It's just that they don't have access to the right type of learning learning tools. Now, if everybody had a lifelong learning coach, right, which sat by their shoulder, and just every single time they were in a classroom, every single time that they had a moment of learning, if they weren't quite sure, the learning companion would be able to say, hey, look, let's go back to where we were, and let's pick you up and let's sort out that misunderstanding in your brain so that you can move forward with the rest of your class. Because I don't know what your educational experience was like, but certainly mine. There are lots of times that cognitive load and brain fog come into students' minds, and it basically stops them achieving what they could achieve. And so the whole point of Zavmo is that Zavmo understands what you don't understand. Okay, that's Zavmo's job. It's to be a really, really good instructional deliverer. And so when you're not keeping up, when Zavmo knows that you don't understand, when you're not paying attention, when you haven't shown sufficient curiosity to meet the learning objectives, this is where Zavmo will go in and basically help you and coach you. So this is why it's called a learning companion. So it's there to basically make you better at learning. That's basically what it does. So it's not about the subject that we're teaching. It's about the instructional design and the theory of, the science of learning. So, we use, 50 different types of science of learning. We capture attention, we capture curiosity, we capture all of this feedback using, the NLP layer of the, AI stack. And with that, we hope to curate and maximize curiosity. So can you imagine a world where basically everyone was the best version of their intellectual capability? That's what we're trying to say. There's lots of people that are stuck in underemployment, underachievement at school. We're trying to say, no, just be like that, because you've got a one-on-one coach that really understands how you learn, what motivates you. And that's the problem we're trying to solve, so that nobody will be left behind.
Yeah, no, that's a very noble and big big undertaking there. I can see, how, if you do succeed, not to rain on your parade, but
Come on.
well, when you do, we'll say it that way.
Yeah.
When you do, I feel like you're going to make some enemies in very, very high places, but that's neither here nor there. We don't have to get into that kind of conversation. But no, that's really, really interesting. Because you mentioned something, going from, well, I'm just curious, like how, when you decided to kind of make this jump, and this is kind of where I get interested in these types, like, how did you come up with this idea? How did it spark? And it's very interesting because, like, you take the world of like an app or SaaS, and it's like, hey, there's a real problem that somebody has, and our SaaS solution fixes it. And this is kind of the same thing. It's just that it's an AI type of tool that is kind of just more ingrained in fixing that problem. You know what I mean? So I'm very interested. Did you build this yourself? Did you hire a team? What was the process of getting this up and going?
Yeah, so going back, the reason when I started growth engineering, we're still known for this. We're still known. If you go to our website, it says the engagement experts. So we sort of crafted a kind of niche, and that's why we ended up working with some of the biggest companies in the world, because learning technologies can be really quite boring, and so can e-learning. It can be really, really, and just not work. It's just compliance. It's just ticking a box. It's not actually transforming culture into a high performance culture. And that's what we really focused on in growth engineering, leveraging social learning and leveraging gamification. And so that was really why we managed to deliver what we delivered. But SaaS is not AI. So the capabilities of an AI platform are completely different than the capabilities of a SaaS platform. Yeah. And so when the AI kind of market started, moving, I was like, right, okay, well, obviously let's incorporate, AI into growth engineering and what we're trying to do. But it became very, 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 very clear very quickly that actually the best way to do it was for me just to leave, start a new company, and basically just start from scratch. And so I did. And the funny thing is, my eldest son is at university in Tokyo. And so we were talking about, basically me leaving and basically wanted to start this AI startup. And he was like, I'm really interested in AI. Although he was studying a liberal arts degree at the University of Tokyo, he's really into coding. He's all self-taught. And so before I knew it, we were discussing this AI Zavmo project on a daily basis. And then it all just blew up, and he rang his father and said, hey, I don't want to be at university anymore, I want to do Zavmo. And so basically he is now the CEO of iridescent technology. He's kind of helping me on the technical side, so I'm really the learning theorist. My passion is learning engagement, the science of learning. He does the AI, and then we've obviously got a team that do the back end, the front end, the DevOps. So it's a kind of standard structure, very similar to the structure that I've got in growth engineering, slightly smaller team. But yeah, I mean, it's just been the greatest fun. I mean, so over the last sort of 9 months, if we've been building it, the AI infrastructure market is, well, you've seen, you've got new large language models coming out the whole time, prices crashing through the floor, so it's just a hugely exciting time. I thought SaaS was, exciting, but I mean, it's nothing compared to AI. AI is just, wow. What you can do with it is just amazing. So yeah, I'm happier than I've been in many, many, many years. I love this kind of building aspect. And the other thing that I'm really interested in is how the industry will react, because we're obviously pushing a lot of boundaries here. So the fact that you've got a one-on-one educational experience is something that the world has not been able to do. So you either have a coach or a psychiatrist or whatever, and that's one-on-one, but pretty much e-learning, classroom, it is all one-to-many, and we're totally flipping that on the head. So it is going to be an individualized learning coach for your life design, your ideal life design. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting disruptions going on, because we can obviously deliver any qualification. So any school or training environment, we can deliver that content, and hopefully we will get better completion rates and better, because it's personalized.
Yeah, and I seem to remember some guy out there said one time, the ones who are crazy enough to believe they can change the world are the ones who actually do. For those of you who don't know, I'm talking about Steve Jobs. But no, that's really cool that you get to work with your son on this too. That's very, very neat.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just so, and also the other thing is because he's younger, he's got this amazing kind of plastic brain that just kind of goes here and goes there, and it's brilliant. I mean, it's a massive gift. And because I was always a woman that worked outside the home, so I never worked inside the home when the kids were being brought up. And there's always that element of, oh, if I could just go back, I'd just cuddle them more and I'd be at home, and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't. And so now the opportunity to work with my son every day is it's just an absolute blessing.
Yeah.
So, and we're quite different. I have my strengths, he has his strengths. So, it's just an absolute, it's a gift. Yeah.
Wow.
As you said,
Very
yeah.
cool. Very cool. I got to do a small project launch with my dad here recently this year too. We're kind of putting it on pause for now, but it was really cool for the time to do that with him. So I get that. That's really neat. So you mentioned something I'm very curious to dive into a little bit more. You mentioned, SaaS was really, really cool and it was super exciting and so many things you could do with it. And now with AI, it's like your excitement level's gone up like 100x, right?
Yeah.
So why is that, right? Because I have conversations with people a lot, even myself. I've been in the SaaS world for a long time. I'm starting to make this transition into doing more and more AI things, trying to teach myself it, trying to get more involved in it. Kind of finding it like drinking from a fire hose, right? I think
Yeah.
like a lot
Yeah.
of people who are probably
Yeah.
listening, right? And it's like, okay, well, what about it is what about it makes you say that? What about it makes you like you said, just okay, I'm willing to drop doing like a SaaS thing and go all in on AI? Like what about it makes you say that?
I mean, for me, it's the natural language processing layer. So for somebody like me that is not a technologist, through the lens of that layer, it's basically allowing humans to have contact with immense data sets and then presenting those immense data sets in a way that you as a human understand. So what just completely blows my mind and completely inspires me is the fact that the way that you can get AI to, yeah, I mean, let's just take the process of, so Zabmo basically has 4 steps that Zabmo goes through. So the first one is discovery. So you're sitting down with Zabmo and you're talking about, where you are in your career and where you want to go. And what Zabmo is doing is Zabmo is busting out to this enormous database. It has every single occupational standard that the UK government have, put in place. It has every single qualification that they have deemed necessary for all vocational and all academic standards. Like, the database is huge. No human could ever have intricate knowledge of what was happening in horticulture, policing, investigative crime, sales, maths. So if you sit down with Zabmo and you go, look, I'm really, really interested in, the design of, I don't know, gardening, but I also like, heights. I also like this. Zabmo will basically pull all of that information back into a series of modules that you could basically create your own qualification on. So I think the first thing is that how quickly that NLP layer can very, very quickly allow you to get things that you wouldn't even know how to answer the question. You wouldn't even know that there's this certain qualification out there that is just perfect for you, And then the other thing, the next phase is this idea of habit forming. So learning new things is really hard because basically what happens is we get cognitive overload really quickly. So what happens is that you're in flow. Okay, so you're watching a video or stuff like that. Your ability to watch a video or even watch a lecturer, in class is actually really quite short. So what happens is your brain effectively shuts down, and that's what's called cognitive overload. So, and cognitive overload is the information going into your short-term memory in order for the information to go from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. Well, if you have cognitive overload, you've basically just brain fogged out. Okay. So what Zabmo is doing in the discussion phase is really trying to work out how to optimize the learning delivery phase in order to stop you getting cognitive overload. And then we go into the delivery phase, which is all about combining your interests with the actual content. And then finally, it's that confidence building. So if you go into an interview or you want to apply for a new job or you want to, whatever, do great in your exams, Zabmo is drilling you, giving you the confidence to really understand the theoretical concepts and apply them in a way that will make you confident about that knowledge. And Zabmo basically can tell when you're interacting with, the UI layer, whether you're actually paying attention or not. And if you're not paying attention and you're not learning, Zabmo will go, well, that's cool. Let's come back in 10 minutes. Let's come back next week. Let's come back tomorrow. The learning needs to go at your pace. And so obviously, for somebody like me, that was what I was trying to do in my SaaS company. I was like, engagement is everything. Learner engagement is everything. And we created virtual worlds. We created, learning games. We created, a whole infrastructure of, different kind of gamified elements on mobile apps, and we did this for some of we still do, some of the biggest companies in the world. But it's not the same as saying, look, work with this AI, Zabmo AI, in order to build your ideal life design. And then together, in a very personal way, we will work towards achieving that. So that was like, I had to jump. I was like, that is got to happen.
Yeah, no, wow. That's amazing. So, I mean, that's what's really neat is it reminds you actually reminded me of an article that I read. I think it was a couple of days ago. It was like a highlight or something I saw. And it was really just the headline actually that I read. So I didn't read the article, but it was something about how Mark Cuban had said that like the first trillionaires among us will come from people who learn to leverage AI in ways that we haven't even thought of. Right. And so when you were talking about that, I was thinking about that headline. I was like, oh yeah, so this is this is one of those things that is using this in a way that probably no one has thought of. Like you said, you're breaking through so many existing boundaries that have been set up for people for so long, and you're just basically just like blowing those all up, right?
Yeah,
um
I mean, and you do get that. So I was on a call today with one of the UK's biggest awarding bodies. So, huge qualification. And I was explaining, look, this is basically what we're going to do. We're going to put it into some of our large corporates. You're suddenly going to be able to award a lot more, qualifications, but also you'll find that, the woman was like, I don't really know what to do with this information.
yeah,
Do I,
she had the brain fog. Yeah.
yeah. She's
Yeah.
like, well, what? How does that? And I said, look, I'll send you some information, and then, but it is happening. I mean, it is happening. And if you look at a lot of educational policies from government, they are really trying to close that skills gap. So they are making it as accessible as possible to make the standards of learning ubiquitous, within the country. They're open standard frameworks. So getting access to these frameworks is relatively easy, well, it's not actually that easy, but with a lot of hard work, it's easy. But yeah, I mean, the reality is that, it will come, it will come. And that doesn't mean to say that there won't be a role for teachers. I mean, going to school is like a million times more than basically learning, social skills, it's,
Right.
it's a ton of stuff. So we don't ever envisage, or I don't ever envisage, a situation where Zavmo would be the only thing that you would use. That's not the idea here. The idea is that you are given the support outside the time that you are in the classroom. And that's definitely what I needed. I would have got my first layer exams if, I hadn't basically just not got the foundations down. And that's the problem. A lot of people who fall out of education, a lot of people who end up, having discipline problems, are because they're sitting in the back of the classroom and they're basically so far behind, they have no idea how to get forward. And
Right.
those are the people that we want, because everyone deserves a chance in life, and so much of people's ability to move forward and, have the opportunities that other people that had a great education have, are limited by the fact that they're in a classroom of 50 people, or they're in a classroom with people that are really disruptive and so they can't hear, or they're in they're dyslexic, or they've got ADHD, or they've got, this is not all people get access to the same high quality education. And that's what we want to do with the power of AI. And we can do it. We can
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I was going to go a different direction, but your meeting you just talked about brought up another really interesting question I want to talk, because it'll actually change the frame of this more to a business and sales perspective. So when you're in that session and you're talking to these people, you're pitching this idea or whatever it is you're doing, right? It seemed like, you're kind of in this mode where you're on fire. You're just like, hey, like, this is what's going to change. This is how it's like you're painting this vision that these people can't even comprehend is real. It's like you're literally painting a vision of like a city in the literal sky, and they're like looking at you like, what are you talking about? So, but there's a lot of people that are building these things and building companies, even SaaS companies, or, in AI companies and all this stuff, where they're kind of in that same situation. They're trying to link, like, build that bridge between where the world currently is and where it could be with this tool or with this new reality, right? So in those situations, in like that situation that you were in, where did your mind go? How did you say, okay, how do I effectively communicate this to this person so they actually grasp it?
Yeah. And I think it literally goes back to the kind of 101 of kind of sales and, creating relationships. It is absolutely not the thing. It's the problem the thing solves. So the way that I start every discussion is, let's think about the one-to-many model. Okay. Now, you might be, most of the people that I speak to are educational specialists. So they understand the problem with the one-to-many model. They absolutely understand that, because there's a high level of dropouts, be that online qualifications, vocational qualifications, academic qualification, doesn't make any difference. The one-to-many model, you get people dropping out of the educational process. And so that's where I always start. Hey, look, we want to have a much more individualized, approach to how we engage. Okay, so from my point of view, I am not an expert in policing, horticulture, sales, math, geography. I'm not. My expertise is how people learn. My expertise is understanding and knowing when cognitive load happens to a user. My level of expertise is understanding why in Bloom's taxonomy, we're much more interested in the higher levels of learning than the lower levels of learning. My interest is how we curate lifelong curiosity for your continuous development. That's what I'm good at. What you're good at is the subjects. What we can do together is something magnitudinal. We can put those two together, underpin it with this beautiful wrapper of AI technology, which is just insane how clever it is. And we can basically create a better world together. That's the pitch. But it doesn't really matter to me and the awarding bodies and the educationalists necessarily how the AI works.
Right.
It only matters really that the prompt engineering that is programmed into Zavmo, we're very clear on what the learning theories are that back those prompts. So we obviously provide a full, totally transparent list of these are all the things we're trying to do in the 4 stages, and this is the way it's been coded up.
Yeah. So it's benefits, not features. Again, like that's But no, but that was a good reminder, because it's like, that's how a lot of, I mean, you think about this in the business realm, even the political realm and the sales realm, like there's always this big, large problem that like kind of everyone can connect with, right? It's like, when you think about it in the political realm, like one of the talking points is the economy. Like everyone knows what's going on with the economy, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's whatever, right? Or gas prices, that affects everyone, or immigration, or whatever it might be. And then they kind of dive into, okay, here's what we need to do, here's how we need to do this, but whatever. So that's just like a political analogy for that. But no, that's good, because I think that's a very good segue and a very good insertion point to talking to people around, like kind of segueing into your thing. It's just a good reminder to, it doesn't have to be like a super specific problem. Like a lot of times we're taught in marketing, or like, hey, like there's this super specific thing you're solving, but it's almost like to grab that attention to hook. Sometimes you can even kind of go way broad, and you can be like, hey, you ever notice how like this one-to-many model is just not working for people? And then they're like, oh yeah, that makes, you know what I mean? So that's a very good reminder. Very good reminder.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really interesting because, everyone is obviously very worried about, AI and what's going to happen. But it is my real belief that AI is an enabler for humans. So humans created AI. Okay. So we're the boss in the room. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to harness all the things that AI can do for us to basically develop more curiosity, more innovation, more all of those things. So rather than being scared about it, one of the things that I think is really, really important is that people, do have the confidence to upskill themselves in this new technology, because it's amazing. And by doing that, I think you're in a much more confident, place. But I also think that we're missing out on people that are underemployed or long-term unemployed. So in the UK, we have a real problem with people that are stuck in jobs that are not really that interesting. And, what I would love to see is a scenario where everybody had a really, really fulfilling career, right? So, if you think about the health issues involved with people that have jobs that just are not very good, we need to stop that. Like, humans need to feel like they're really achieving and they're really happy with their career. And that's really one of the key things that we want to do with Zavmo as well. It ensure that there are that people are able to identify what they would be really good at naturally, be able to learn about that, new career, and be able to transition into that, into that industry with, with ease, because they've learned the information, they've got the qualifications, and they've practiced the skills, So that would really be wonderful, if we could achieve that, to actually improve the quality of people's lives through, ensuring that they had the career that made them most happy. Because there's nothing more fulfilling than having a career that you love. And there's nothing more depressing than having to spend, 38, 39 hours of your week in a job that you hate. It's just horrendous.
Yeah. I think most of us have probably been there at some point,
At some point, yeah.
or maybe you're still there, and that's okay. But that actually reminds me of, there is an AI revolution going on right now, and there's a lot of people that maybe should look into, how do I get involved in AI? How do I get involved in AI engineering, or taking a look at these things, or building some kind of product,
Yeah.
because there's just, it like you said, it's like the gold mine. It's like the gold rush right now. It's absolutely, it's just mind bending. We could talk about this all day, I'm sure, but we don't have all day, unfortunately. But no, this was really good conversation, Julia. Thank you so much for joining. So how can we connect with you? How can we learn more?
So the name of the company is iridescenttechnologies.ai. The name of the product is Zavmo AI. Both of those are available on the net. We are actually launching the website tomorrow. So the product will be in alpha tomorrow. And then it will be available to everybody probably at the end of August. So we're just basically testing it internally, and it will be ready to go, at the end of August. So yeah, we're just rushing towards that deadline. And I'm on LinkedIn the whole time. So I do not quite daily updates, but I do updates like, 4 times a week on video. So, I would be delighted for anyone to, connect and ask any questions about what we're trying to do. Always interested to, connect and network.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, we'll put your LinkedIn in the show notes, and then we'll also spell out those products, and the iridescent and Zafmo and all that stuff inside the show notes for you guys. So this is really cool. So by the time you guys are listening to this, it's like she said, launching tomorrow. By the time you're listening to this, it's probably live, or at least going to be very, very soon. So very excited, very, very, congratulations are due, Julia. Thank you, or congratulations on that. Hopefully the launch goes well. I'm sure, no launch is perfect, but I'm sure, you guys will get it figured out. So best of luck with that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for your time, and thanks for inviting me on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right, guys. So that's it for this episode with Juliette Denny. Be sure to check that out. Be sure to connect with her on LinkedIn. Again, her links and everything is in the show notes here, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify or wherever you're getting this podcast. So as always, please like and rate and review the show. If you like this episode, share this with anyone you think might get value out of it. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. See you later.